Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Early Wedge. We are brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Well, I gotta say, Rick Gehman, Scottie Scheffler sort of stole some of the excitement out of our Sunday, but that should be no surprise to us. Scottie Scheffler, your Open champion.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I had fun. I think we are watching greatness, right? I think that the fact that, it's like how much is he going to win by? What, is he going to be able to play this blemish free? Is he going to do anything stupid? Or if not, just like he's going to be the champion golfer of the year. He's going to win 4 out of the last 16, and he's now on a historic pace. I mean, Scottie Scheffler is really a historic figure right now. 4 major championships is an insane amount of major championships.
And what's crazy is how decisively he's winning them by. Can I ask you this? At what point in the tournament, and it might be like round 1, I don't know. At what point in the tournament were you like, oh, Scottie's like kind of definitely going to win here?
He was even money after playing 27 holes. He was minus 400 at one point on Saturday. But really, I would say he removed all doubt when he stuffed it on number 1 today and tapped it in for birdie. That was just like, I've got a multiple shot lead. You guys have no chance, and let me show you that right now.
And it's funny, he can double, and it like is of no consequence because he's built such a padded lead. Before we get to some of the other players that played really, really well today and for all 4 rounds, Rick, where do we put Scottie? I mean, I don't mean in like the Tiger conversation necessarily, but we have said all year, like for the early wedge, for example, we're always, or at least I'm always doing the without Scottie Scheffler market because I'm just deathly afraid of betting against this guy. It's come to a point where when the event gets bigger and even the small ones, it's just so hard to bet against Scottie Scheffler in any capacity. I don't even like, this is a level of dominance that is really unique, at least in the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably recalibrating those statements that I mean, I make all the time, like, 3.5 to 1. That's insane. It's like, maybe that's the right number. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot more of the without Scottie market. You're going to see a lot of, DraftKings for their DFS purposes are going to price him pretty outrageously. And I think that he is by far the best player in the world. And the scary thing is he might be getting better, Sia. And if he's not, like, there's still things that he could get better. Like, what if he shows up instead of being the 20th best putter in the world? What if next year he's like the 8th best putter in the world? Like now what?
Right.
So this is the consistency. The floor is incredibly high. It's shocking stuff that we have not seen. Like if you were not watching Tiger in his prime, you've seen nothing like this, and that's the closest we've got.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's if you miss that, if you're just young enough to have missed that, this is certainly the next best thing and the best thing that you would have witnessed because you missed the Tiger experience, which was different in a lot of ways and obviously a little bit better than what we're seeing now. Let's start talking. If you have questions in the chat, I see Jeff and Joseph. Hit the like button, but let us know what questions you have, whether it pertains to Scottie or anybody else. There was another big, before we get to like Harris English, which we have to talk about, Chris Gotterup, which is amazing. One last question on Scottie. Coming into not necessarily the Scottish Open, but particularly the Open Championship, I think there was a question, and I asked it myself, like, are these the type of courses where link style, for example, where you can take advantage of maybe some weird bounces that will frustrate Scottie Scheffler because he can't sort of automate what is going to happen with his next shot? Has he put that to bed as well? I mean, the answer is a definite yes, right?
It's definite yes. It is also, and listen, I am not taking anything away from this. He just is an unbelievable stud in every sense of the word. But the last 3 days of this championship had no wind, no weather, and the sun was blowing. Right now, that is a bunch more variables that could have shaken up this leaderboard. And maybe Scottie Scheffler still comes out on top. He probably does. But this was, by Open Championship standards, a much more of an aerial attack than a ground attack, which obviously, I mean, look, you've got a ton of Americans on the first page of the leaderboard. I don't think that is I think part of that is because of the weather that we got and the conditions that we got. But yes, we can put basically anything to bed at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right. And honestly, as someone who had a Matt Fitzpatrick without, it wasn't just without Scotty, it was without like the big four, right? I felt like the good conditions lent themselves to Matt Fitzpatrick not having the days maybe he thought he was going to have and that I thought he was going to have. Let's talk about Xander Schauffele though, because this is a guy who honestly at 3 under today, I feel like could have been 6 or 7 under. Just a lot of like just some putts that just weren't very good, leaving it short, being wide. I thought Xander Schauffele really could have had a much better round, but it does tell you something about where his game is. He was one of my main outrights this week, certainly acquitted himself very well. Your thoughts on Xander at the Open?
Yeah, this is a lot more of what we've seen from Xander this year, where he's around, he's on the first page of the leaderboard, he's not getting enough putts to drop. I will have to run the numbers because I imagine that the putting stuff is probably much worse than we've seen from him in previous years. But the takeaway for me is, so I believe this top 10 gets him back to exactly 50% of top 10s in his major championship career, which is a historic rate. The only people that can even compete with that are basically Tiger and Scottie Scheffler, but Xander has played more top 10, or excuse me, has played more major championships than Scottie Scheffler has. And that would be a completely different conversation if he hadn't won two of them last year. And we'd be saying, oh my gosh, he has all these top 10s and he can't win a major championship. So he gets a little bit of a reprieve from that conversation for a while now that he's got two on the mantle. But my goodness, Xander Schauffele, on the first page of a leaderboard at a major championship is a lock at this point.
Yeah, 100%. He was, it looks like seventh tee to green, lost about a stroke and a half with the putter. Oh, actually, I'm looking at round 4 right now. Let me take a second look at that. But while I'm doing that, can we talk about a guy that we ran out of this tournament? I guess day one and absolutely smoked it the next 3 days. Talk to me about Bryson because another guy that we thought, again, the sort of that links feel we didn't really get with the weather, but another guy that we thought was going to exit stage right very quickly had an amazing 3 days.
Yeah, I think we sat here Thursday night and said he's going to have to shoot the round of the day on Friday to even make the cut. Well, he did that.
Yeah.
And then he shot a 68 on Saturday and then he shot a 64 on Sunday. Unbelievable turnaround. You know, I think that was what made Thursday so shocking is that he made 0 birdies and he has just unlimited firepower. This dude can bring golf courses to its knees and to go and shoot a 78 and make 0 birdies was a stunner. So yes, hat tip to Bryson, who was able to turn this thing around. He is certainly going to be thinking a lot about that Thursday round that played him out of this golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to see if this is the next natural progression for Bryson in the way that he has taken a long time to figure out Augusta National and has played better there recently. If he's just taking a long time to figure out link style golf, and if he will play better there moving forward. So yeah, this will be a little bit of a turning point. We'll kind of learn what's next for Bryson at these type of events.
Yeah, and by the way, it was Xander Schauffele. I think he was 7th tee to green in round 4, but also 7th tee to green overall in the tournament. Matt Fitzpatrick, 2nd tee to green, gained pretty much, well, he gained everywhere, but the putter wasn't very good to him. The ball striking the last 2 days just wasn't good to him at all. Any surprises near the top of the leaderboard? I do want to get to English and Gotterup, but was there anybody that surprised you with how they finished or just how they played over 4 rounds?
Well, quickly on Matt Fitzpatrick, I go back to basically his second night on Saturday is really where I thought this got away from him. I think it was the battle of attrition, having to play next to Scottie Scheffler in the final group. And he just can do no wrong. And you're working very hard to make pars. And he just kind of leaked some oil coming in on Saturday. And that is where I think his championship changes. You get 2 or 3 shots going the other way. He still doesn't beat Scottie, but maybe a solo second is a little bit of a different story. The biggest surprise, I mean, listen, Chris Gotterup has just changed his life and his career in 8 rounds. On one trip overseas, to win the Scottish Open and then to finish solo 3rd on the podium at the Open event, an event that he was not in until his win on a week ago. Like, now what? Now what? Is he now going to be a name that wins once a year on the PGA Tour, if he gets hot for the next couple of weeks through the FedEx Cup playoffs, is he going to make this Ryder Cup team? There are like serious implications for what Chris Gotterup's life and career look like over what he does in the next 5 weeks.
You're so right about the career change over 8 rounds. I mean, we knew Chris Gotterup had talent, dating back some time, but for him to put this together these last 2 tournaments is pretty amazing from a Ryder Cup standpoint. Obviously, I guess he's in the conversation. Any shakeups, let's say on either side, that you think are worth noting because of how they might have played over the last 2 tournaments, for example?
Yeah, Harris English probably punched his ticket because he's going to get a ton of points for the solo second, and we're running out of events. So he has probably punched his ticket. I think the big question is going to be, like, does Patrick Cantlay get selected for this team? I think the answer is obviously yes, but I don't think he should. I think that he benefits greatly from being the ultimate pairing with Xander Schauffele. But this team is looking like a lot of the spots are locked up, right? We've got Scottie, Xander, JJ, Bryson is on this team. Harris English is on this team. Justin Thomas is probably on this team, and then it starts to get a little hairy from there. But a lot of guys have successfully earned their tickets at Bethpage.
So talk to me about the players that you think should be ahead of Cantlay, because I agree with you. I don't know that Cantlay hasn't done enough anytime recently to earn his spot. I understand the idea of him just kind of being one of the guys that should be on there, but like let's name some guys that should be ahead of him here.
So Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Keegan Bradley, which playing would be ahead of him. You could start to make a case for Brian Harman. I'm not the biggest Brian Harman guy, but you could make the case for that. So if we have Scheffler, Xander, Spawn, Henley, Bryson, JT, those 6 who I think are on. Harris English is 7, Keegan is 8, Colin is 9, Griffin is 10. There's now 2 spots left, and you've got. Listen, if you're considering Cantlay, you have to be considering Jordan Spieth. You have to be considering Sam Burns. You have to be considering Brian Harman, McNeely, and Andrew Novak. I think that I think he will be on the team. I'm not sure he should be, and it's probably a lot closer than it needs to be, but I don't think he's a lock.
I don't see why he should be a lock. I'm not necessarily, Rick, I'm always going to defer to guys like you or Greg on stuff like that. But it's hard for me to find an argument that Cantlay is in a better position to succeed at the Ryder Cup than some of the names that you just named.
Yeah, it's tough. The American team is always very deep, and now you're getting a lot of guys making runs on points. And then once you start doing captain's picks, you're running out of names pretty quickly.
Yeah, we've got, is it Hallie's Real Football Talk has a statement regarding Harris English, which is interesting. We'll get to it right after we hear a quick message from our partners.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Halliel's Real Football Talk chimes in. He says, guys, I'm not sure if you remember me. I do, by the way, from the show. But just before the Open started, I guess we can say the Harris English worries were eliminated. Now, what he's referring to is his Open Championship history. So, but Rick, your comment, and Harris English, we talked about it, right? That his 2025 form is so good that I think we might be able to defer to that versus his Open Championship form. But Rick, there is that lingering comment that you made about, well, did this really feel like an Open Championship test because of the lack of weather and the lack of elements that we normally have? Like, what are your thoughts on that as it might pertain to a guy who played well here at Royal Portrush, but typically doesn't have good Open Championship form?
I think I'm mostly on the side of this was a proper test. even though Mother Nature didn't cooperate in the way that we would like. Now, it's funny because if this was a regular PGA Tour event, we would say Mother Nature cooperated perfectly. She did a great job, but not when we get over to the Open. So, I mean, this is still a golf course that has a ton of collection areas, a ton of fescue, a ton of really difficult spots, whether the wind and rain is coming into play or not.
Yeah.
There's still a lot more elevation change on this golf course than a lot of others. Sometimes this happens. Royal St. George's is a very southerly venue that you can get very good weather at. This is still a very different golf course than St. Andrews is, right? So I lean on the side of this is a proper links test. I'm not going to caveat Harris English's runner-up finish by saying, oh, well, he got lucky with the conditions. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Well, can you explain the following, Rick? I'm going to change the subject. Somebody brought it up in the chat. Wyndham Clark T4. Well, like if there's a bigger surprise, because is there a bigger surprise than, like, for example, Chris Gotterup, third? I don't think we can be shocked by that based on what we just saw. Wyndham Clark T4 is a big surprise to me. Ricky Fowler shot 600 today. Anything about that? Because I would have bet Wyndham Clark would have played himself out of this tournament on Friday.
Yeah. So I know I just said I'm not going to caveat this, but the fact that his week was almost identical to Bryson's, which is a really bad opening round, and then 3 of the best rounds of anybody in the tournament. And they both play a style of golf that is incredibly susceptible to the spin on their golf ball. You hear Bryson talk about that constantly. He wants to play a different ball by the time he gets to, he's developing his own golf ball because the spin rates are not correct. And the way that he hits it with the spin, when the wind starts going in certain directions or at certain speeds, it is very, very bad. The same thing happens to Wyndham Clark. He plays more curve on his golf ball than anybody on the PGA Tour. He plays that huge left to right shot almost exclusively. So to see that those two, who are very susceptible to wind, in the 3 best days played well, not a super big surprise, but yes, I mean, listen, T4 for Wyndham and T10 for Bryson, way better than what I would expected them to come in and doing. I do think they were beneficiaries of weather, but you still have to go out and do it. These guys still have immense firepower.
I also want to give a shout out to Corey Connors in that we weren't sure what his status was going to be. He ends up finishing T10, shooting a 5 under, Rick, today. Pretty impressive. We haven't really brought up Rory McIlroy's name. Rick, your thoughts on, I mean, he's 2 under today. Your thoughts on his performance at the Open Championship?
If you finish T7 at the Open, you've had a great week. Now, that is not fair because Rory gets graded on major championship victories. I understand that. This was a great week. I saw him drive it in ways that only he can drive it, not every single hole, but it is so good. To have the week last week where it was the runner-up finish and then the T7, this was a great trip for him. And I'm now interested to see what comes next for Rory. And I'm talking about like next year, right? The Postmasters hangover seems to be past that. He's got to play a lot of really big golf coming up. He's going to try to win the Tour Championship for the 4th or 5th time, something like that. He's got a Ryder Cup on enemy soil that he's got coming up. So I think we're going to get a lot of really good Rory moving forward. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with the way that he played, even if he does not take the claret jug home.
Totally fair. I thought he played pretty well as well. Let's bring on Josh. Josh, if you could step in here real quick. We're not going to go too much longer, but I certainly want some more thoughts in terms of, Josh, your takeaways from the Open Championship, whether like maybe there are multiple. Scottie might top that list, but what else comes to mind as we sort of punctuate the 2025 153rd Open Championship?
I obviously it starts with Scottie. The thing I keep coming back to is just this idea of I genuinely have no idea what you do against Scottie. We're to the point with him being a top 25 putter in the world that the answer to that question I just don't think exists. Whether it's getting out up and down out of the bushes yesterday, making a 10-footer for par early yesterday, or just bouncing back every time he makes a bogey. He's leading the PGA Tour in scoring average, bogey avoidance, bogey average per round, and also bounce back. Like, so when he does make a bogey, he makes a birdie shortly thereafter, more than anybody else on the PGA Tour. It's yeah, I don't know what you do. There are a lot of guys who played some great golf this week, and it just wasn't anywhere near good enough, which is insane. It really is.
Do you want to weigh in on the Patrick Cantlay Ryder Cup comments from Rick and me kind of piling on?
I'm about as low on Patrick Cantlay as one can be. He doesn't have any interest in playing a meaningful golf shot ever. He just doesn't, and that's okay, I suppose. But it feels like the U.S. Ryder Cup team is nowhere near successful enough in an entity for people to just kind of be grandfathered in. It feels, and there are some guys who are closer to that, but I'm not sure Patrick Cantlay is one of them, even after kind of ironically being what ended up being the rallying cry around the U.S. team in Rome. I agree he'll make the team. Part of it, I think, is because those other guys, while they're making a charge, I'm not sure any of them are especially get the gears turning, which is part of it. It's not like, I mean, we're saying some not so exciting names to round out the U.S. Ryder Cup team, but I'm good on Patrick Cantlay.
Which, by the way, the rallying cry was, "I'm very greedy and I would like to be paid for this." Was the rallying cry, just to be clear.
Okay, well, speaking of disappointments, let's we'll just go a couple more questions here. Let's talk about a player at the Open Championship that did disappoint us. Josh, I'm actually going to start with you. I mean, Colin Morikawa might headline that list. Mm-hmm. Victor Hovland didn't exactly have the tournament people were expecting. Josh, who's the biggest disappointment for you?
I think it was Victor for me. It just didn't seem like he was going to have that type of week whatsoever. I mean, he had gained like 18 or 19 strokes in approach over the last 3 weeks, and I just assumed he'd hit his irons well this week, and he didn't do that. And we're definitely at a point with Victor right now where if he's flushing it, he's gonna have a chance to win golf tournaments, and when he's not flushing it, especially especially around links golf, the week is going to look very similar to this one. He was like 2 under through 4 on Thursday. He got off to a really nice start, and then like 2 hours later, I went to go look and see where Victor Hovland was, roughly around T11, and he was like 2 over, and we never really heard from him again. So I was a little disappointed in that, but yeah, I think there are several names that you can go to here.
Yeah, if memory serves, he had an eagle on what would it have been 2 on Thursday, and then his next 4 non-par scores were bogey, 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 bogey. Just kind of like taking any momentum he might have created out. Rick, who disappointed you the most?
I say Jon Rahm. He entered the week as one of the favorites. Finished T34, and I actually think that's probably better. Like, the finish sounds better than what it was. He was not really in the mix ever. And whether you like it or not, Jon Rahm's a 2-time major champion who gets graded on major championship performances. Yeah. And I don't particularly care how frequently he finishes inside the top 10 on LIV. I care when he plays well at the Masters and the US Open and all that stuff. And this was supposed to be a great week for him, and it should have been, and it was not. So he is, because I think so highly of him, he is graded in a sense that he has to compete at majors, and this was not competitive at this major.
And it's interesting too, because the odds coming into this week had had absolutely flipped with respect to Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau, because of, hey, it's the Open Championship, it's better suited for Jon Rahm, and it turns out Bryson does it again and pretty much outperforms everybody on LIV. I shouldn't say pretty much. He absolutely did. Although Terrell Hatton was up there as well. He had a very middling, under average. Go ahead, Drake.
He can play well for 54 holes. See ya. That's all. That was a layup. I saw that 10,000 times on Twitter today.
That'll never get old. Actually, it was old immediately. So thank you, Rick, for encapsulating the Twitter experience. All right, before we get out of here, all eyes are on, I don't know about all eyes. Obviously, we're talking Ryder Cup, but the FedEx Cup playoffs right around the corner. We got the 3M Open coming up this week, where the early wedge is going to have all kinds of their regular content, of course, starting with the DFS show tomorrow with me, Rick, and Mike McClure at 7:00. But is this the setup is different, Rick? Right? It's a much different setup without the starting strokes. That's starting now, right? So, but how do we look away from Scottie?
Okay, so it is always jarring how quickly we get to the playoffs after the Open. The summer just began and the season is over. 3M, Wyndham, and Wyndham is like pseudo playoff event because it's the last time to get in. Mm-hmm. So there's like one regular event left. There's a half a playoff event left, and then there is the playoffs. And the no starting stroke thing is probably better for the game, but it will have ripple effects for the other two playoff events. Why would Scottie Scheffler play in Memphis and at the BMW Championship? Why? As long as he's in the top 30, he's starting at even par. Why would Rory McIlroy? Why would those guys who have been incentivized over the years, especially when they went from 4 playoff events to 3, to play every event? There's no reason to do that this year. Just get yourself in and see what happens. It's also going to create a situation where, like, Scottie and Rory are probably going to be the problems at Eastlake. But what happens when you get, there were years where like Ches Reavie nearly won the Shadow leaderboard or whatever. Like
Ryan Moore.
Right. Like that could happen.
He was in the playoff. It was Rory versus Ryan Moore in 2016.
That could happen. Right. So yeah, it's going to be weird. And from what I understand, it's only 1 year. So we're only there's going to be something different next year. I don't know what it is, but it'll be different. So this like weird, everybody starts at even par again, is I think a 1 year freak show, quite honestly.
Josh, any follow up there?
I think that's spot on. I also, we're going to find out how, at the end of the day, how much gravity the playoff events have, because
careful.
I mean,
because you might find out something you don't want to know.
100%. I think that's part of the reason why they've left next year open ended. That this is how it'll be this year, because they don't want to commit to this is how it's going to be through 2028 or pick whatever year you'd like to. And then the guys in the top 10, and especially guys like Rory and Scottie, who are, 800 points ahead of Rory in second and another 800 ahead of whoever's in third. There's seriously no reason. And we keep doing this thing. Shout out Memphis, Tennessee, but it is 1,000,000 degrees in Memphis on August 7th. And it is 1,000,000 degrees in the DMV area on August 13th. And it's 1,000,000 degrees in Atlanta at the end of August. And that's where we're going for the playoffs. So there's also this level of, if I don't have to put myself through 12 rounds in 100-degree heat,
self-preservation,
then I'm probably not going to. But with that being said, there are some fun names outside of the top 30 right now. On that list is guys like Jason Day. Xander Schauffele is 40th in the FedEx Cup rankings right now. You can go on down the list. Jordan Spieth is 48th. So while I think that is true, that we'll see something in terms of participation might take a hit, there are some names that I think we'll see all 3 weeks trying to get into the Tour Championship.
Very interesting stuff. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it, Rick. I always try to give you, even if you don't have one, I always try to give you the last word on anything we've talked about, but maybe in particular, the Open Championship. Any last words here?
I think I said this probably after Scottie won his second Masters, and I just want to remind people, enjoy this moment. We are in a moment. Usually you have to look back and say, wow, that was really impressive. You don't have to. I'm telling you right now, we're in it. Okay. So enjoy this. We don't know how long it's going to last. You might never see anything like this again. Don't be upset when he wins by 4 and wins 25% of the major championships. Just enjoy it. You're going to tell your kids you saw it. So we're in a moment. Let's see how long it lasts.
And maybe don't be upset when he says, when I win, 5 minutes later, I'm thinking, what's for dinner? Because that's just the Scottie Scheffler experience. I mean, it's just so automatic for him.
He's a different cat. He's a different cat. It's okay.
He did show some energy when he finally hit the final putt. He did show some of that passion that I think people are looking for in a moment that had really no excitement because he had the thing wrapped up basically when the round started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. That is our round 4 recap. We got your early wedge regular programming starting tomorrow at 7, and then the next day we got our best bets, and then we got the live chat, the 3M. We just coast along, no matter the tournament. That's Rick Gehman. That's Josh Mullinex. My name is Nejad. This is the Early Wedge. We'll see you next time, folks.